The warm-up. This is probably one of the most important things you want to think about, especially when you've got a taxing day of trumpet playing coming up. So some of the things that you want to include in your warm-up, lip flexibility, note bending, lots of fluttering, and a big focus on air flow, because that air is extremely important. And I'm going to teach you a useful way of breathing to make high note playing, or trumpet playing in general, easy. So your warm-up is low, it's easy, and it's usually nothing new, almost always nothing new. So what I start with every day is a mix between note bending and pedal tones. And this is going to help open up my aperture. Your aperture is where the air comes out of your mouth to get a really good sound, get my air flowing, and really focus on getting a good sound in the lower register. What I'm going to do is start on a low C, and this is not a transposed, this is our C, trumpet player C, a low C, and I'm going to bend the note down to a low G. So I'm doing inverted fifths, and I'm going to go through the valve pattern series, which is essentially your chromatic scale, from a C down to a low F sharp, and I'm going to bend each note down inverted fifth. So these are the inverted fifths, and we'll go all the way through the valve series, all the way down to a low F sharp. For that to happen successfully, there's a few things that need to be going on. Number one, you might have noticed I'll start pivoting my chin down, just like this, to get those low notes. So there's a lot of players that will pivot when they start playing in different registers. So that's a good thing to be doing. You have to think about dropping your jaw and opening the aperture. Open that up and use a lot of air. The lower you go, the more air you need, which is really good training for playing in the upper register. So when you're focusing on all of that air flow to get your note bent down to the low note, I remember what it feels like to play those notes, and I try and bring that feeling up to the original note. So if I start on a C, I have to drop my jaw, use a lot of air to get that note bent down to a low G, and then I try and keep that feeling back up to a C. And this is going to create a big, round, open, resonant, warm, all that stuff sound. The next part of my warm-up is flexibility. And you're gonna notice when I go through all of these different tips for trumpet playing and high note playing, flexibility is a staple in a lot of the things that I do. So flexibility in my warm-up usually is just for getting some flow going. So I'm focusing on my air support, my posture, and I'm thinking about playing through the lip flexibilities. It's not necessarily a chop exercise right now. So I'm not thinking about working hard here. I'm thinking about blowing through these lip flexibilities. And that will continue all the way through the valve pattern series as well. So there's a few books that you can use that will give you some examples of exercises that are really good for note bending and lip flexibility, or lip slurs. One of them is called the Charles Colin Advanced Lip Slurs for Trumpet. And the other one is a relatively new book by Scott Belk. Progressive Lip Slurs and Modern Flexibilities, I think, are the two titles. Both of those books are full of all kinds of lip slurs. On the first few pages, especially of the Charles Colin book, it has a lot of really simple flexibility exercises. That's where I got the exercise that I just played. We'll talk about the more advanced ones in a few minutes. The Scott Belk book has a lot of lip flexibility exercises that will build your chops, and I'll tell you when those are useful in just one second. Another book that I will use is called the Giuseppe Conconi Lyrical Studies for Trumpet. This one is just focusing on flow. So I mentioned when you're doing your lip flexibilities to focus on flow in your warm-up rather than on chop building. This book also helps just play a little melody that will focus on air movement, which is very important for high note playing.